I'm very, very excited to welcome Sacha Dragic on stage with me for the first conversation. Please join us, Sacha.
Hi.
So Sacha, how does it feel to be in the very exclusive club of Romanian unicorn founders? It's still a very small club as of now, and hopefully we'll grow that within the audience.
Good.
I'm sure. But let's start from the beginning. So you have a very, very unique story. Would you mind telling the audience what got you to Romania in the first place?
I think it was like more of I would not tell accident, but let's say the war started in my country. I'm from ex-Yugoslavia, and after traveling around Europe, at a certain moment, the business I was running at that time had started to have more and more activity in Romania. And in '95, I decided that for me, I was living in Budapest at that time. I just decided that moving to Bucharest, it's just better because probably like 70% of my business was already Romania related. So I moved in '95 in Romania.
So what I find very inspiring about your story, right? Like you're not one of these like teenage entrepreneurs who started a little bit later in life. Can you share what got you to entrepreneurship in the first place?
Look, I mean, I started really my entrepreneur career very early on. I dropped from university when I was 22 to found my first company in Belgrade in '88. And it was one of the very successful export company from Yugoslavia at that time. And from that moment, I think all of my career, I was always an entrepreneur. And I had a lot of ups and downs. I was way more efficient in my downs than in my ups. And I was always trying to find out some models who started to be successful on a later stage in their life. I was very happy when I was reading that Sam Walton founded Walmart when he was already over 40. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's not too late for me as well, you know. So actually, yes, I founded Superbet when I was 42.
Yeah, I think this is a great testament that like even like not like in the teens or 20s you can like start like an amazingly successful company. What has given you the energy and grit to keep going and going and going?
Look, I think that all of the people here who are entrepreneurs, they know it. You just have a special drive, you know, which make you that you don't want to quit at a certain moment, because there were plenty of times when you was thinking, okay, should I maybe go for a proper job, have some kind of stability, but then you go, no, you know, I need to get there. And I think that that's the way going when you have your first down cycle, when everything starts to go very bad, when you don't have money for salaries, when you don't have money for almost anything, that's the moment when you have to make a choice, you know, would you continue the hard way or would you just quit, you know? So that's I think.
Yeah, and I think like what is also very unique is that as a founder, right? Like you have a background in like more traditional businesses, and like even Superbet started out as like a physical like business, right? Like so, what were your learnings from taking like a business that I mean, maybe you share a little bit like what Superbet started out with. And how do you went from like taking a business that started in the physical world to be like such a strong player in the online and digital space?
Yeah, all of my career pre-Superbet, I was always in the classical businesses. So it was always commodity trading, industry. So when I started Superbet in 2008, it was just a classic retailer. So our business model was to open as many shops as possible to be able to bring our product to as many customers as possible, but only physically through the shops. So when the legislation changed in Romania in 2015 and digital online just became very much the big thing, that was probably the only moment when I was even considering selling Superbet, because I was very much scared of what come next, because I didn't believe that we will have the expertise to become a digital player. But since I didn't find the right partner to sell Superbet during summer 2015, I then decided, okay, we need to go all in and invest in technology, in digital capacities. And at the beginning, it was a small investment, but as we have seen that in 2016, Superbet became more successful than we ever dreamed in the digital space, I then just understood that we need to double down, triple down on technology investments and basically try to then replicate the model outside of Romania as well.
Can you share how large your digital business now is as part of like your total business and like roughly an absolute scale?
Yes, so today Superbet have probably 85% of the business in the digital world. So we're operating in 3 regulated markets and maybe 10 unregulated markets through an acquisition. And we will generate this year from the online part north of 800 million euro of revenues.
Yeah, I think this is also like in the last few years, right? Like when all the companies were like built on like growth, you've built like you have built like kind of like the dream business. You've built a business that's high growth, high profitability, and like high margin, right? Like I mean that was like very, very unique when a lot of other companies were burning a lot of venture capital. You actually built like a real business growing like as fast as any like digital business can.
Yeah, I was very frustrated like 10 years ago because we were like blacklisted from any financing institution to get financing. So it was always friends and family kind of money or some alternative financing instruments. So it was impossible to get financing from any banks. And it was impossible also to get financing from VCP because gambling was always blacklisted from their LPs. So that was the kind of things which at the end helped us a lot because we always had to make a right balance between growing fast and being profitable because otherwise we will not be able to solve it, you know. So we actually was very much inspired by Netflix and the way how they use their DVD profits to finance the digital part. So that's what Superbet have done 2016, 17, 18, and 19. So on those 4 years, under my watch, because after that I get fired as a Superbet CEO.
You fired yourself.
Yes, exactly. But on those 4 years, I think that I took from the retail operation and invested in technology probably around 100 million euros.
Yeah. So I think as we talked, right, like one thing I've seen you're probably the most humble unicorn founder that I've had a chance to meet, and even in this talk, where he said like you learn from Netflix, you learn from other organizations. What helps you to like sustain this mindset to continuously like take inspiration, and what are companies you take inspiration from right now? Because you said like Netflix helped you in this transformation. What are the companies that inspire you now?
Look, one of the things, and I remember yesterday listening to Mark's presentation about that trust first or trust last kind of things. I was very lucky that I always activate in industry which I didn't have a clue about. So I didn't have any choice than to trust the people with whom I was working, you know. So it was not I'm that way or the other way, but since I didn't have a clue, I just had to trust. And it helped you to basically be very open-minded. So because if you're not a specialist in something, you don't have any biased opinion. So you're open-minded to try some things which someone who will have more specialty knowledge will just talk, okay, it's impossible, you know. And I listened to those stories for years in Superbet. This is impossible. We'll never do this. Don't even try. You are throwing the money and so on. But I was just looking for the model. So it was a period of 2016, 17, when I was more looking on the companies in our industry. So Betfair was one of them. Bet365 was the other. And then I went through a process where some people I worked with opened my eyes that we should look more toward way better companies from the technological point of view. So, okay, I mean, both Betfair and Bet365 are great for our industry, but we are probably one of the most backward industry technology-wise. And so we started really more looking on Amazon, on Netflix, and these kind of companies, yeah.
You spent quite a bit of time in Silicon Valley lately from our talks. So anything cool that you would say there that the audience here should pay attention? Any young founders who want to start the next Superbet, what should they look for right now in like I mean, either market trends, industry trends, or technology trends?
Look, I mean, I try to spend like at least 2-3 weeks every year in Silicon Valley for the last 4 or 5 years. I didn't succeed only when there was a pandemic in 2020, but otherwise I spent the time. And I just think that I'm surely not the best person because probably people have a much better view than me about what is happening there. But I can tell that from my experience, I have learned one very positive and one very negative things from all of my trips there. The positive things is that still Silicon Valley, it's like the Vatican, the make, whatever you want to do it for everything what is product and technology. So people knowing how to do product and knowing how to apply the best technologies are definitely most probably based there, and you need to go there. What I will think it's a little bit more negative, it's because of the where the VCs in the Silicon Valley become more as an industry, so they have a kind of very clear framework how should look the founder of their dream, and so you need to tick some boxes, and if you tick those boxes, then you will get funding. If you doesn't tick those boxes, so I think that it's a bit of superficiality within the whole process there, but it's really my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean that's why it's great that there's people like you, like working outside of the framework and still succeeding with a lot of grit. So I want to dive in a little bit more, like in the early years of Superbet, right? Like, can you share a bit, like when you started it, what was your life as an early stage founder like? If you look back into that period.
Look. I liked very much, it was a kind of, and I tell you why it's the relevance, the 17 minutes video on YouTube of Reed Hastings about the early days of Netflix. And it's very easy not to be, you know, like demagogical. It was about culture, it was about this. The first years, it's only survival, you know, how you make money for next month, how you should manage your cash flow to be able to pay as late as possible, whatever can be paid as late as possible, you know. So it's really just a survival game till you try to find the right business model. And I think that probably 2009 was the worst year of my life. It's a year which I will never want no one to go through. It was really the year when it was every month looking where to find additional 30,000, 50,000 euros just to do the payroll, was paying our phone bills when usually Vodafone was giving us the last call that if you don't pay it in the next 24 hours, we'll definitely cut your phones out. So that was the moment when you was paying, you know. So a very aggressive cash flow management would be the scientific description of that.
Yeah, and I mean, you went all in, and like you, if I've understood correctly, you even took a mortgage on your house to really like keep the company going.
Yeah. But it was even in the beginning when starting the company, we needed to take some mortgage in order to mortgage and the loans from whoever we knew and wanted to give any kind of loan at any conditions, yeah.
So how did you develop that level of conviction to say, I mean, there's very few founders that said, like, I'll literally bet my house on this company succeeding.
Look, I mean, I think it's not something specific for Superbet. Even in my previous business, I was always all in because I was considering that if you as a founder do not put all what you have behind, that you will not be credible to convince other people to trust you with their money. So for me, it was always I first put whatever I have, and only then, as a second stage, I feel that I'm credible enough to offer to friends, family, okay, can you back me up because I need some extra money. You know?
So as you're now also an investor in some startups, you're looking for founders that are doing the same?
Look, I think that today it's quite different situation comparing with 2008, 9, 10. But yes, because when I left the CEO position in Superbet in 2019, I'm spending more time with my family office, and we're spending more time looking for different investments, VC, PE, stock markets, whatever, with few teams which work closely with me. And on the VC side, that's exactly what we're looking. We had different in the beginning, it was a little bit chaotical. We was investing just everything what was looking sexy. Then we started to build a kind of verticals, which are more of our interest. But now lately, we understood that at the end, it's really the entrepreneur which make the difference. So we are more looking for those kind of atypical entrepreneurs who are maybe a little bit for them difficult to get a classical financing because they are not within the framework, but we believe that they have that extra something, which will make them succeed sooner or later.
How does your like interview process, if like some founder comes to you and says, Sacha, I have this idea, would you help me? Would you mentor me? Would you invest in me? How does your interview process look like? And what's the question that you ask those guys?
Look, unfortunately, it's not anymore as simple because since I'm involved in many projects, from Superbet IPO preparation till a lot of things in our family office, people don't have so easy access to me anymore, but they can access whenever people from my teams. And then, let's say I have a partner, Andrea, who is running our VC. So whenever she finds that someone is just very interesting for me to meet, then she arrange a Zoom or a face-to-face meeting with that person just to give them my feedback about if I feel that the entrepreneur have what he needs to have. And also I'm an investor in a PE fund in Vienna with Roland Haas, who is my partner in Superbet. And that's also how we do. We're both on the investment committee, but he's the numbers guys. And then at the end, when he feels that everything is okay, they send usually the founder to me. So I have a coffee with him just to confirm them that he have my blessing as entrepreneurial abilities.
So what's the tough questions you ask those founders?
You don't need to ask tough questions, but usually the question is how they see their company in 5 or 10 years. Are they building this just for an exit? Or are they building this because just they believe and they like the domain where they are or something like this, And it's not something which at the beginning, those things can switch because me also, when I built Superbet, really my idea was, okay, I need to build it. It's an easy model to sell with 20, 30 million euros. So I'll just be rich and I will not need to take care anymore. But then when I enter more deeper, I understood how interesting domain it is. Because even if it looks shady from the outside, in order to perform in the sports betting and gambling industry, you need to be very strong in many, many things. You need to be very strong in people management because you have thousands of people. You have to be strong in logistics. You have to be strong in technology and product. So it's really interesting. So I started really liking more and more the model after I was already in.
Yeah. No, I think the one thing that you said yesterday when we were chatting, right, like is that in like easy times, right, like if you build a company just like for the exit and so on, it might all go well. But the founders that just do it for an exit, a lot of them run in the tough times that like, I think you have certainly a perspective that, almost any company that I encounter, they don't only have like sunshine, but like basically what you said, I'd love to hear more, is that kind of like this conviction and this like impact-driven mentality is like key. Is that right to say?
Yeah, and that's something which you can feel. At least me, I can feel it. So when I meet with a young entrepreneur, usually 30 minutes, 45 minutes with him can give me quite, I would say like 70-80% of conviction, should we back him up or not? And then if we have another follow-up, I can basically, of course, I can be very wrong. This is also true.
What is your general impression of like the Romanian entrepreneurship startup scene as you've seen it evolve over the last few years?
Look, I think they are extremely talented people in Romania, and I think that the biggest issue is the lack of ambition. Because usually they just make themselves a target which are too easy to achieve, and they just consider that they cannot compete on a global stage because they're from Romania. And I think this is totally wrong because, and you have a lot of talented engineers, and instead of building a product and trying to do something really meaningful, they end up doing like a service company, coding some stuff for some Western company. I just think that it's a waste of talents, a very bad waste of talents.
Yeah, no, I've traveled and lived in many different places of the world. I do agree, right, like that if you go in Silicon Valley, you go in any like random coffee shop and you have like 5 guys that they say they start the next unicorn. And obviously not every of them will succeed, but I think if like you talk like here to people, a lot of people say like, yeah, I want to start a company that's like 10, 20 million in scale versus like where people really shoot for the sky. So, I hope that you and others can in Romania set that example that it's really doable, right? Because a few years ago, people thought it's just not doable. I had like VCs here on stage that said like, yeah, I think it's very hard to start like a consumer company out of this part of the world. But again, like this was like 5-10 years ago. I think now you've like definitely shown a path that it's possible. I mean, your iPass has done that in the enterprise space, so I think nobody can say that it's not possible anymore.
Yeah, look, at the end we succeeded. We have in our team, so as a company which started in Romania, we probably have already 15 engineers which we recruited from Google and Meta, who are based in our offices in London. So it's just difficult when you start, but then after that, when you see that it works, you just can go. And also Danielle with UiPath, they have engineers everywhere, Bitdefender as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one thing, by the way, that you have that's very unique and that I've also rarely seen in Romania, but like what you just touched on now, is like you want to have the best possible people, and like ultimately, within reason, you're willing to like make the investment into people, right? Like you've like early on always said like the company is about the people and the caliber of talent, and that doesn't know any borders. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy with like talent, because I think it's both interesting for Superbet as well as for others as a lesson on like how do they attract like the right people?
Yeah, yes, I think for me it was very natural because I always tried to find the best people. It's not like I just discovered it. It's just that one, it's not easy. Two, you need also to have an attractive proposition for them, because when we are a small Romanian retailer with 20, 30 shops, I don't think that we are like the sexiest destination for talented people. So, but I just think that it's a no-brainer, because if you want to grow, you can just do it if you have a great teams around you. So, and I think that even I'm not involved anymore in Superbet on the day-to-day activities, the things where I spend the most time together with my CEO and some of the board members were always focused how we can bring more talents in the company, and really top talents. So basically, people from Silicon Valley. We have 2 board members based in Silicon Valley, which we spend a lot of energy convincing to join us. So yeah, it's very important.
Do you look for talent in Cluj at this moment?
Look, one of our frustration as Superbet is that because we are coming from that kind of dark, shady industry, gambling, for us in Romania was way more difficult to hire talents in technology and product than in other geographies. So even it looks very strange, but we have today probably 150 people in product and tech in London and Leeds in the UK, and we have probably like around 400 people in Zagreb in Croatia, and in Romania, I think we have maybe 30 only. So they're all based in Bucharest, but I know that Bruno, our CTO, and his top leadership team are looking more and more towards Cluj, and also we are doing our effort how to increase our headcount in Romania, because we think that for talented engineers and talented product people working on something which will really be core part of the company, so their product will be seen in probably 50 jurisdictions, should be way more interesting than working in some service company which do some piece of software totally irrelevant for a big group.
So talking about like career options for young people, a lot of the audience is just like wrapping up university or just in the early stages of their career. What would you like think people should look at when they consider like, should I start a company? Should I join another company? How should they weigh their options, and how should they know what's right for them?
It's a very difficult question because I think it's very, very individual. So I have chosen the hard way on the way to, okay, I dropped from university, I found my company, and it's like almost a no return. So when you're 22 and you make a no return decision, it can work great, which I can say today, but like 10 years or 15 years ago, I was not so sure that it worked great. I had moments when I was thinking, maybe I made a mistake. Probably going for a job for a period of time can be a good solution just to get some kind of working habits, to have some experience. It will make your entrepreneurial life in the second stage more interesting. And I will tell you, will avoid a lot of mistakes which otherwise you will do on your own skin. But you need also to take care that sometimes when you take a comfortable job, you just say, okay, I'm just too comfortable, so I don't want to take risks anymore. So that's why I think everyone should I wouldn't take that kind of responsibility to advise someone take that or that, you know. So I really think it's individual.
If you'd be like young Sacha and you wouldn't start a company on your own, what kind of company would you join? Except Superbet, of course, which I know that you'd love to join.
Look, I think I'm just too bad. I think that any company would have fired me very quickly.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see the rule-breaking things that is not very well accepted in many companies. So I can definitely see that pattern. But any company would have been lucky to have you. So what I mean, maybe asking in another way around, right? Like, so I think you're like describing yourself very much as somebody that doesn't like to follow rule, like a troublemaker to put so. What do you do at Superbet to give other troublemakers a spot to drive an impact within your company? Because I assume you want to have entrepreneurial people and not only rule followers.
I probably do more than my CEO would like me to do. But yeah, look, we have a great relation. So Johnny, Superbet CEO, and I, we have a really great relation. And we're together working to try to really find that best balance between people who come with an experience, who used to work in big systems and can help us a lot in getting better organized, scaling better. But in the same time, we don't want this to become too bureaucratical. We don't want this to become too rules-driven. And we have that luck that we're still a very young company, you know. And when you're a young company and you already make 300 million profit a year, so it gives you kind of a room for mistakes. So we can just make some mistakes, some experiments if it doesn't work well. But we are trying. I mean, we kept almost all of the entrepreneurs. We acquired 7 companies in the last 5 years. And all of the entrepreneurs which were behind those companies, or almost all of them, are still within Superbet, doing some stuff and basically bringing a little bit of entrepreneurial dynamics within the system.
Yeah, very, very impressive, right? Like, I mean, I know doing acquisitions and keeping these entrepreneurs engaged is very, very tough, right? Like most acquisitions don't work out because like so big clashes in cultures.
Yeah, this is true. That's why I was so impressed with Mark's presentation yesterday, because he actually solved in his career many of the challenges which we have today, and that's why I basically just stole him last night for 2 hours, getting more insight in this. But I think that when we never does those kind of cultural due diligence, which he told me that they were doing, which I think it's a very smart thing, because then you can see during the due diligence phase if the cultural fit is there or not. However, during our due diligence on the companies we acquire, we does that kind of things. Are those entrepreneurs just driven by exit value, or are they driven also by creating something and continuing to influence? And in most of the case, it was the case that the entrepreneurs wanted to stay and continue building, just getting access to much bigger capital. So we acquired 3 software companies, 1 in the UK and 2 in Croatia, and the only things, we just let them to run their show continuously, a little bit, you know, Berkshire Hathaway style. So we are just here to give you a lot of money so you can hire more people, but you do it the way how you want, you know, so that was it.
Yeah, no, I think, like, again, very, very remarkable to keep those people. And as I said, right, like what I'm very impressed is like how you build a learning culture and evolve. Like every year when we talk, I have the feeling like you're like growing and learning and iterating so quickly. So it's very impressive. So what I want to ask you, like, if you had the opportunity to put like a huge billboard in Cluj with like one sentence of it that like you would say like you'd like everybody to know this like kind of like one thing, what would be like your sentence on a billboard in like Cluj downtown or Bucharest downtown, or maybe both?
You know, I'm a very complicated person, so I know what I will tell, but I just don't know how to put it in one sentence.
You can say it in a few sentences, and we can have the audience craft it in a short.
Basically, my main sales pitch when I was hiring some top people from UK and from Europe and even from the US was the things, look, I know that it seems almost impossible and extremely aggressive what we are trying to achieve, but if you have a company like Zara, which started from the small city in North Spain, and you have a company like IKEA, which started from a small village in South Sweden, why would you not have a world leader in sports betting starting from Bucharest, which is way bigger than the Zara city and the IKEA city? So that was the kind of things. So that will be the message also to the Cluj people, why you don't join. At the end, that's, I don't believe that in any other industry, maybe except with UiPath, you have the chance to have the world leader, which started from Romania. And we are today probably in the company number 7 globally. We started for 700 10 years ago, now we're number 7. And I really believe that we'll be in the next 4 to 5 years in the top 3.
See, you're not lacking in ambition, right? Like that's what you said, like what you wish for young founders. So you're certainly not lacking that. All right, I think with that we're at the end of our session. Sacha is also available in the Q&A stage, so you can, in a smaller, intimate forum, ask him any questions that you have. Our online participants can put the questions in Hopin. So I want to give like a really big round of applause, Sacha. Thank you for making it here.
Thank you.